Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we've got a truly fascinating journey ahead of us today. Our goal is to completely demystify Neville Goddard's dense and, let's be honest, sometimes highly mystical text, The Power of Awareness. We're going to extract his brilliant insights and translate them into a clear, structured, and entirely practical framework that you can actually use to create your own reality. So, get ready to completely rethink how you interact with the world around you. Okay, let's dive into this. I want to challenge you right here at the very beginning. What if your imagination is the exact, literal cause of your physical reality? Seriously, just imagine for a second that you aren't a victim of circumstance, you're not just a passenger on this ride called life, but you are the absolute, unquestioned creator of your world. What if every single thing you experience is actually pushed out from your own internal state? Keep that totally mind-bending idea front and center as we go through this.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with how consciousness is the only reality, move into the law of assumption, outline 3 steps to manifestation, look at some proof in action, and finally, learn how to persist until it hardens.
Let's jump right into Section 1. Consciousness is the only reality, the subjective center of things.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we have to translate some things. Goddard's fundamental philosophy argues that you and your environment absolutely cannot be regarded as existing separately. There's no out there acting upon an in here. Your consciousness is the first and only cause substance. It's the single foundation to explain all the phenomena of your life. But he heavily relies on esoteric and biblical language, which can easily trip us up, right? When he says, I am, he isn't talking about some distant deity. He literally means your unconditioned consciousness, that foundational awareness of just being. Righteousness, that doesn't mean moral perfection here. It means the consciousness of already being the person you want to be. And the law of assumption is the core principle. You create reality by literally assuming the feeling of your wish already being fulfilled.
And this brilliantly illustrates the concept using one of Goddard's most helpful metaphors. He says that a rich man, a poor man, a beggar, and a thief don't actually have different minds, they just have different arrangements of the exact same mind substance. It's just like a piece of steel. When it's demagnetized, the electrons are scattered at random, just reacting to everything. But when it's magnetized, those particles are marshaled into ranks, facing one specific direction. Wealth, health, or genius aren't created out of nowhere. They are simply displayed by how you arrange the magnetic pull of your mind.
Moving right along to Section 2, the law of assumption, shaping your destiny.
So now that we understand the theory that consciousness is the only substance, we have to look at the exact mechanism. How do we actually dictate the events of our lives? Well, there is a crucial paradigm contrast here. There is an enormous difference between thinking of your goal and thinking from your goal. Thinking of it is just futile daydreaming, observing the desire from the outside, separating yourself from it. But thinking from your goal means embodying that state right now. Goddard uses this beautiful, intense image here, the moth plunging into the flame. To become a new person, you have to be like that moth. You must completely unite with the flame, dying to your present self, rather than just hovering around it and wishing for it.
So the crucial point is this idea right here. An assumption, though, false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. You don't need to force the external world to change. Actually, you literally can't. You don't need to manipulate people or wrestle with circumstances. You simply yield to the assumption internally. If you assume the state and persist in it, the external world has absolutely no choice but to harden into the fact of that assumption.
Which brings us to Section 3. 3 steps to manifestation, the actionable framework.
Okay, we're shifting the energy of this explainer into the highly practical how-to phase now. Theory is great, but application is everything, right? So let's draw specifically from the exact formula Goddard lays out in Chapter 19. This is the mental procedure you need to follow. Step 1. You must have an intense, burning desire to be transformed. You have to truly want it. Step 2. Physical immobility. You need to relax your body into a state akin to sleep. Why? Because physical stillness essentially shuts the door to your external senses. It lets you accumulate massive mental force without being distracted by your current environment. And step 3, while in that completely relaxed state, you experience the wish fulfilled in your imagination. You don't just see it from afar, you feel it, you touch it, you inhabit it, until it completely possesses your mind.
All right, Section 4. Proof in action. Case studies of the law.
Now, it's really easy to just dismiss all of this as abstract theory, so let's ground it with some incredible real-world proof from Goddard's actual case files. Let me narrate this fascinating story for you. It's 1943, and a drafted soldier stationed in Louisiana desperately wants an honorable discharge.
He applies, and within 4 hours, he is strictly denied by his commanding officer. No appeals allowed. Done deal, right? Well, what does he do? He turns to the law of assumption. Every single night for 8 days, while lying on his uncomfortable army cot, he physically immobilizes himself and imagines, in vivid detail, that he is sleeping in his own bed in his New York apartment. He feels the familiar sheets, looks out his own window. His objective reality completely contradicted him for 8 solid days. But on the 9th day, those psychological forward motions literally overrode army regulations. The colonel miraculously changed his mind, and that soldier was on a train home. Let's move to and see how this builds with 2 rapid-fire case studies, just to prove this law works for literally any desire. First up, a 9-year-old boy whose parents strictly forbade him from having a dog. He simply imagined petting a collie in his bed every single night. A few weeks later, he miraculously won a citywide essay contest and was gifted, you guessed it, a collie puppy. Then there's the married couple who wanted a highly coveted 5th Avenue penthouse. Despite an impossible waiting list and crazy exorbitant prices, they both fell asleep every night imagining they were already living in that specific apartment. The result? They got the apartment at a rent-controlled price, bypassing the entire waiting list. The law is completely impartial, guys.
Finally, Section 5. Persist until it hardens. Troubleshooting your manifestations.
Look, we have to be real here. Sometimes our manifestations fail. But Goddard doesn't leave us hanging. He provides specific troubleshooting tools for when things just aren't clicking into place. If you're failing to realize your desire, it usually comes down to these caveats. The primary culprit? A lack of naturalness. Think about it. If you are securely chained to a heavy iron bench, it definitely doesn't feel natural to run. You can't just tell yourself to run. But you can use your controlled imagination to build that feeling of running over and over until that feeling of naturalness actually displaces your current physical reality. You also fail when you yield to the evidence of your physical senses, or when your attention just drifts off into simple, uncommitted daydreaming instead of a persistent assumption.
And this right here is your ultimate diagnostic tool. Remind yourself, this isn't magic. It is the absolute mastery of your attention. And here is the secret. It is frequency, not the length of time, that makes a state feel natural. Returning frequently to the feeling of the wish fulfilled is what builds that naturalness. The time it takes your assumption to become fact is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be. So the more natural the state feels to your consciousness, the faster it hardens into fact in your physical world. We've journeyed from recognizing that your consciousness is the only reality, all the way to mastering the exact mechanics of focusing your attention to literally bend that reality. You are the architect. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. If your entire world, every circumstance, and every single encounter is simply a mirror of your inner assumptions, what are you going to consciously assume to be true tonight as you drift off to sleep? The power is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly, highly encourage you to put this into practice today.